good morning, and good morning. How are you? Guys, y'all know who I am. Yes, that is me. I'm Corwyn-j-Melette, broker and owner of Eggs Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Guys, hey, we have a dynamic show for you today. We're so excited to have a conversation on air with a local real estate broker, Charleston market, guys. So, guys, we have today joining us Kevan Chisolm, broker owner of Boykin Real Estate. Kevan, how are you doing this morning?
Doing absolutely fantastic, my friend. Doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, you're quite welcome. Look, so for our listeners, guys, me and Kevan, we go back. We go back like 4 flats on a Cadillac. That's how far we go back. You know what I mean? So, Kevan, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, before we were kind of getting started, today we're having this conversation just, quote unquote, behind the scenes, before we got quote unquote fully into the studio today, to say and talk about, hey, what's going on out here in this market. So, Kevan, first of all, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
So I started in the business in mortgages, and moving from mortgages, I kind of transitioned over to real estate, which seems like some lifetime ago. From real estate, I ended up stayed with one company. I moved over to take over at NACA, which is extremely popular in this area, and took as the in-house agent. So for some time, I was the only in-house agent for the state of South Carolina. And shortly after I was asked to take over as a broker there, I left and came back into the general market and took over as a broker in charge, and ended up kind of buying this company that I have now.
Well, look, so I'm very excited about today's conversation because again, you bring a lot of depth, a lot of knowledge about the real estate market in general, but specifically in Charleston. And this gives us the opportunity to have, to be frank, a very fruitful conversation. So, Kevan, we were talking kind of as an intro, and I'm gonna start with where we've been before. How about that?
All day long, we can do that. What year do you want to start with?
So many people, so there are a section or faction of agents that, quote unquote, we've been here for a while. How long you've been in real estate now in Charleston for how long now? Including how far you go back?
Back when I think I was in before we had the mortgage collapse. So when we were still feeling the effect from 9/11.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, you were in before that. Because I think I think I've known you for at least 15. I've been doing this 18. So that means that you were around before I knew you. So that would take us back at least 16, 17, 18 years because you've been doing this at least. So you remember, like you said to me and behind the scenes a little earlier about, we've been here before. So real estate professionals has been around for a while. For our listeners, some of us have this mindset, we saw this before, what now? But if you don't mind, Kevan, share with us your perspective on the current market, along with the advice and counsel that not only you're giving, and I know this is a lot to ask, but not only the advice and counsel that you're giving to clients, both, buyers and sellers, but also what you're giving to agents.
How long is your show? So in regards to the market, I would say, like we were kind of discussing, we've seen this before. It's kind of like the stock market. You're going to see, for your juggernauts of the industry, you're going to see them go up, you're going to see them come down. It always ends up kind of cycling back around. Well, real estate is no different. When I think shortly after 9/11, we saw that the rates kind of bottomed out and they thought that interest rates were dropping the market. Then all of a sudden we started getting an influx of what was non-conforming back then. We're getting Alt A and the subprime and, no doc loans. Yeah, I know you remember those. Right? Exactly. The secretary claiming 80 grand a year, so we saw all of this happening. And then they said, it was gas prices that was changing the market. Sound familiar? But they could not raise the rates because of where we were. So we saw that cycle around, and then we got to a point where we saw rates, everything kind of I guess, revert back to where it was supposed to be. And then it took our price point up a little bit higher. And we watched the same thing come back around when that market destroyed and just kind of imploded on itself. And then we got an influx of inventory, and which came from our bank sales, which I keep reminding people, for the last 2 years, the government would not allow any foreclosures. What do we think is going to happen here? At some point, it's going to hit the market. And I think what people are going to end up getting shocked about is banks are now, they're now pros at it. When short sales became popular, and I know you remember this, there was no plan in place for it. They were shooting from the hip. So now all of a sudden you had positions as short sale negotiators that started coming out. But when this comes forward, we're going to see an influx of properties that are going to hit the market, and we're going to slowly shift back over to a buyer's market. So now where we're going to be with rates, it's a little bit up in the air. Nobody can really tell what's going to happen with, the state of the country. We have the Ukraine and Russia right now. We have no idea what else is going to happen. We don't know if something is going to occur with Korea and China. We just don't know. So we don't know where rates are going to fall, but we do know that they said they're going to increase rates, 3 more times that they heard last week. They said they were going to have an effect of at least 6, which was a little bit different than the 3 they said. That part is going to happen in some form or fashion. What we do know will happen is we're going to see more of an influx of properties that are going to hit the market, and it's going to increase the inventory that we have. I think one of the things that we're going to have to be mindful of is where the price points are going to fall. It'd be great if it dropped. From what we're seeing, I don't think it's going to revert back to where we were. I don't think it's possible to go back to where we were. We may see a little bit of a dip, but nothing significant. One of the bigger mistakes that I hear is when people step forward, they say, I'm just going to wait for prices to drop. Well, that's not a good idea. So here it is. We have 2 tiers. We already know that the interest rates are going to move like this. And when prices drop, they more or less move like this. If you have a $20,000 price drop on homes, it's still not going to give you a benefit if we have a 1% increase on interest rates. You're still going to be paying more monthly. The difference is today you might qualify for $280 when that 1% hits. Even with that $20,000 price drop, you might be now qualifying for $250, $240. So you're still not going to see a benefit from it. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes I see people doing is just not sitting down to talk to somebody, a professional, and letting them run the numbers and show them where they can actually generate some wealth and what they can do. Because times are different and you have to prepare in advance financially for where these things are going to take you.
So I'm going to plug in. You hit a couple things in there, and I want to interject and get your opinion on this as well. Because, people talk about shadow inventory. They talk about, looming foreclosures and all that stuff. But I'm going to also speculate. This is speculation for our listeners, guys. Look, if I had a crystal ball, I know what I'd be doing. I would probably not be selling real estate. I'd be hitting the lottery every day, some island that I done bought, because I'm going to buy an island. You know what I mean?
Man, I've been saying the same thing. People say I'm crazy. I'm like, y'all don't know. It costs about as much of an expensive house. I'm getting an island.
Exactly. But that shadow inventory also, in my opinion, includes those people who are on the fence. Like, I'm always open, always share personal. I'm looking and saying, you know what, I could reposition during this market. I've talked about that with the family, but I'm also like, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to pay this for that. So I'm just kind of waiting it out to kind of see what's going to happen. And there's a lot of people out there like me. Rates are going up, so you're trying to make sure that if you're going to reposition, that you can take advantage before rates get too high. But then you also want to make sure that you're going to be able to find a home if you sell, and that is a challenge. So I believe that as we increase inventory, I believe we'll see some people come off the fence that have wanted to downsize or reposition, that haven't been able to out of fear of not being able to find a home if they sold theirs. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think it's going to open a door. I think when that happens, though, I think there are going to be some who will get a little bit of a shock because those record-breaking sales in the neighborhood are not going to be indicative as to what you're going to get back. So your timing in selling is going to be crucial because then you're not looking at as high of a profit margin. Now, it will still be high by no stretch of the imagination because we have broken barriers with this price increase, but it may not be what they expect. Personally, and I know you got a background for this because you started with a community that was kind of helping in the budgeting, the credit, and everything else. So you were kind of like the godfather for all that spurred off afterwards. But what I think is going to end up happening is if we can get people to start looking at generating wealth. And even if you're not looking at selling, this is the time to invest and start looking at building a portfolio. If you look back, each time this market had collapsed, we saw everything drop from the S&P to stocks, everything just hit rock bottom. Where would you be today if you had heavily invested then, looking at what it is right now? If you buy, let's say the average person goes out, you buy a $250,000 duplex. You can be sitting at a 4% interest rate. You're generating at least right now about $2,500 a month. You allow both sides to go straight toward the payment and principal. In 5 years, you'd have it paid off. In 5 years, you'd have a $250,000 investment that you can now liquidate or pull money from for further investments without investing a single dime into it. I think that's where we need to start putting our mindset at. I think this is the time people want to start jumping in and stop saying, well, what if, and, start thinking, why not? Why not? Because people who overly invested in this market, I've seen them fall apart. But people who don't invest at all, they're looking back saying, well, man, I wish I had bought earlier. Oh, then buy earlier. Start preparing right now. If you're looking to buy a home, realistically, you should be preparing 12 months before you're ready to begin. And what I hear is my lease is up in May and I want to be out into a new house by May.
Yeah.
Not in this market. It just doesn't work like that. So
let me take it. One, because I want to make sure we get our break in. But number two, before we go too far, Kevin, your contact information for our listeners. What is it?
My direct number is 843-568-7216. Anybody can reach me at Mr. K Chisolm at Gmail. That's my door, comes straight to my phone, MRKCHISOLM. And we are located over at 106 North Pine in Summerville.
Awesome. All right, well, look, we're going to take a quick pause right here. So, quote unquote, we can pay the bills, and we're going to pick right back up. For our listeners, guys, you guys don't go anywhere. As we always say, look here, if y'all mama got that cane patch syrup up there in the cabinet, y'all holler at your boy because your boy still look. They don't make that stuff. All right. Look here, we're going to take a quick break. Y'all hold tight for us. Congratulations to Exit Realty Low Country Group's Realtor of the Week, none other than Robin Collins. You can reach Robin at 843-557-5003 or text Red Robin Homes, that is REDROBYNHOMES to 85377. Again, that is Red Robin Homes, REDROBYNHOMES to 85377. Y'all give Robin a holler now. Guys, and we are back. Second segment, Exit Strategy Radio Show. I am your host, corwyn-j-melette, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Guys, I'm super duper excited. We're having a great time, having a great show today. Guys, we have none other than Mr. Kevan Chisolm, Mr. K, Mr. Kevan Chisolm, the broker and owner of Boykin Real Estate in wonderful North Charleston, South Carolina. Kevin, thank you so much for joining our show again today.
No, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you having me out.
Look here, no worries. So look here, before the break, man, you were, look here. So when I first started the show, my co-host, Robert Wilson, he say this thing about dropping nuggets. That, man, you gave a nugget right there. And man, look here, there's a whole trail of them in that first segment. So anybody who missed, maybe you're just tuning in right now, guys, you got to go to our website, exitstrategyradioshow.com. Go to your favorite podcast app, find our show, find this episode, guys, and go back and replay that. All right, because Kevin dropped a bunch of jewels and nuggets in that first segment. All right. So look here, he's talking about wealth. So look here, man. Like I told you before, we got to have you back. But let's get through the day, because look here. So what I want to hit you with is, and we're talking about this market and the climate and stuff that we're in. And I keep chuckling in my head every time, because it's like I forgot the song. Who is it that sung Heard It All Before? It's not Jasmine Sullivan. Who was it? But Sunshine Anderson. So look here we go. We done been through this right here. So now we can, since we recognize it, let's take a slightly different path than what we did last time, so we can have a different
right.
So in engaging, so you have a company, you have a brokerage, you have agents. So I know your agents, like I say all the time, I know our agents over here getting their head busted to white meat. So how are you helping your agent? Look here, how you help them with glue and some tape, some duct tape, to get their head back together, so they can go back out here and do this thing. So look here, so for those agents, those people that's looking, and they wonder how, because they agents, look here, they timid, they all shy. Look here, most of them gotta keep a bottle of something in the glove compartment. They gotta take a drink out of show because they're struggling. So how do you help your agents, put quote unquote stitch them up and send them back out there in the game, man? Look here. This is like the old football games. Right now they soft, they don't want nobody hit nobody.
Right.
When the catch come around that corner and they take their helmet clean off. This is what this is. So how do you help them in that situation?
This is definitely a market where you go from playing touch to varsity overnight. Yesterday they were grabbing at your flag. Today you're getting up saying, "I thought we didn't do that here." It's a different type of market. We keep a lot of gauze and antibacterial cream for these bruises, and we keep libation in the cabinet in the kitchen. It's hard. It is definitely hard. I try to tell them, I said, look, I think for me, the biggest push that I have for them is do not compromise what you know and what you've learned. Stay true to the steps. Mm-hmm. I think there are a great deal of people who are going to come out of this market no longer knowing or remembering how to practice real estate. I think right now, the people that are getting hit the hardest, you've got to listen and do proper interviews with your client to see, okay, well, where do you want to be? What's the goal for the family? How much can you take on in repairs? What is your income looking like? What's your disposable if we're bypassing something on the repair addendum and we can't fix this financially? What do you look like in order to be able to get this done? Can we work numbers to get some of that closing cost in? I think we need to stay diligent in practicing real estate. And I think some are going to come out of this a little bit more than with a skin knee when we get back to practicing, and this returns to what we remember as a normal market. It's going to be hard.
I can completely agree with that. I mean, had this conversation either Friday or might have been, I think it was Friday, But we've been through a market. I mean, we're in a market now where there are approximately 8,000 realtor members in our given market. And I remember when it was 30 some odd hundred, because the recession, quote unquote, had taken so many people away, when, and now this massive explosion, and we have people coming in. So I look here, I know this is going to be, something to touch on as well. But people seem to think that what we do is easy. So here they all HGTV watching
that right there.
Exactly. And here they come in waves and droves, but they never learn the practice. So they never learn the practice. So when this market adjusts and shifts, they don't know how to represent a buyer or seller. They don't know how to handle the relationship and manage the expectations for the other side of the transaction, whether that be a buyer's agent or listing agent, as well as manage the expectations for their client. They don't know how to navigate. So I'll say this and stop so you can jump back in here. But I was having a conversation with someone today that essentially wasted my time, had me waste my client's time in presenting an offer on a property they'd already contracted on, and they did not tell me. I asked specifically, "Hey, have y'all taken a contract? Have y'all done this? Have y'all done that?" And it was a for sale by owner, and they, told me no, adamant they had not. Had me send an agreement. One of the parties signed it and all that kind of stuff. And today I find something different. Okay, fine, that's okay. But they're trying to tell me, well, the person, they were trying to do this before and they couldn't get it done. I said, but yes, but they didn't have me. There's value that a real estate professional brings to a transaction. Y'all been trying to put this thing together for 2.5 or plus years. But 2 weeks ago, I got the phone call, "Hey, Corwyn, can you help me get this done?" Well, certainly I can. So here I am. I've gotten more done in 2 weeks than was done in 2.5 years. And then you just waste my time by having me bring you an offer from a qualified and approved buyer that we put through the process. So I say all of that, like you said, the people that, quote unquote, never learn to practice, those people are challenged when we hit this next market.
Well, you're spitting nothing but facts. And you make me laugh when you say that, because they say, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, right? Well, how many times, and you've been doing it for a long time, how many times have you heard somebody say, "I didn't want to get my real estate license"? And you just kind of sit back and like, is that what you think I do? But it's different when they cross that threshold. You're sitting in that class, staying up late nights, you finally pass that test just to find out you have to take another one. Just to find out you're not ID to send it. You sending a check off to do that before you even start. Now you got to choose that home. And then when you get in there, you don't have somebody who's willing to take you by the hand and walk you down the street to show you how it's done. They look at you and say, "All right, you're in, go do it." And now you're looking around and say, "Well, where do I start?" Well, I thought it looked easy.
Yeah.
But it's the liability you're taking on behind it. It looks easy because you had a good agent. Ooh. You didn't see everything that was happening.
Look at
They blocked it before it reached you. They were resolving it before you heard about it. You had a good agent. So it's admirable to say, and nice to say rather, I can do this. Hey, that makes me feel good, because that means you don't know about any of the stuff that I fixed or that went down that you never had to hear about. That's what makes your agent good.
That's
what makes your agent good. So it'll always happen. It'll always happen. But I think if somebody's going to jump in, they need to have that commitment and kind of look at things a little bit more in depth and have some introspective conversations where they can see the ins and outs, maybe shadow some people and talk about what's there. Because there's a tremendous amount of legal liability that runs with this, cost associated with this, time that's valued with it. And I love how you said that, well, you didn't have me. Because if you don't feel that way about your transaction, then you shouldn't be representing somebody.
Yep.
You shouldn't be representing somebody. If you don't feel that way, if you don't come in with that level of confidence, then there's a problem there. there's a problem. I just had a conversation with somebody earlier today, and we'll finish it tomorrow. But something occurred, and while it was small in nature, they can't understand why it bothered me the way it did. Well, because I'm a little bit old school. You have somebody under your covering. I don't care if they cost you $1 or if they cost you $1,000. You protect the person under your covering because that's where they went. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot for someone to say, I'm going to follow you and listen to everything you say in this transaction, and I'm going to do what you tell me to do, and I'm going to walk blindly, holding on to you, giving up all control, and know that you're going to do the right thing because you have integrity and value. In the single largest purchase I'm going to make in my entire life. The only other time that you're giving that type of faith and control up is if you're sitting on a table under a doctor's scalpel. Like you have got to respect when someone trusts you to lead them in the right direction. And I think that's where we need to go back to.
We've had, to be blunt, I've had an amazing time with this conversation, but we're quickly coming up on the end of today's show. So one more time for our listeners, your contact information.
All right. I can be reached directly at 843-568-7216. They can reach me by email at MRK, that's Mike Romeo Kilo Chisolm, at gmail.com. Yeah, the military's still in me. I see you laughing at me, Corwyn. So Mr. K Chisolm at Gmail is my personal email. So either one of those, or they feel free to swing by the office at 106 North Pine in Summerville.
Awesome. So listeners, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. We've had an awesome time, and we've enjoyed our conversation today with Kevan Chisolm, broker and owner of Boykin Real Estate, guys. Boykin Real Estate in wonderful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, if he can do anything for you, reach out. I know him. I personally stamp right there. That's my guy right there. Y'all give him a holler as well. So guys, look, y'all stay tuned. We got a lot of wonderful things coming up. Kevan, again, thank you so much for being a part of the Exit Strategies Radio Show family. Guys, you all have a great week. Most importantly, y'all go love on somebody. All right. And as I always say to you, we love you. We love you. We love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in them streets. Guys, that was a great show today. And we thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Exit Strategies Radio Show. My name is corwyn-j-melette. Yes, that is me. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in for today's episode. Exit Strategies is my baby. It is how I give back to our community. It is how I foster goodwill, spread good news, and trustfully help you get great results. Guys, as I always say to you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in the streets.